Chapter 56, Judgment. Eden, spoken by Wells, plunged Hiroshi into deep thought. In the Old Testament of the Bible, it is recorded that God created the ancestors of humanity, Adam and then Eve from Adam's rib, in his own image. He placed this man and woman in the Garden of Eden. Eden, in the original text of the Bible, means paradise, referring to the garden created by God for Adam and Eve, later used metaphorically to denote a happy and ideal living environment. According to legend, Eden was adorned with gold, pearls, and onyx stones scattered across its grounds. Various trees sprouted from the earth, blossoming with exotic flowers. The fruits on these trees were edible, and within the garden were the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Rivers flowed through Eden, splitting into four: the Pishon, encircling the entire land of Havilah; the Gan, encircling the entire land of Cush; the Tigris flowed east of Assyria; and the Euphrates. As a gift from God, there was no rain in Eden. Instead, the land was irrigated and fertile, ensuring abundant harvests. In short, it was a paradise that everyone dreams of, where any desire could be fulfilled. But the world had undergone cataclysmic changes since then. Resources were scarce, and everywhere was plagued by cold and famine. Surviving was already a struggle, so how could such a place as Eden, with its abundance of resources, exist in the world? Suddenly, Hiroshi seemed to realize something, and cold sweat trickled down his forehead. Perhaps what Wells' superior mentioned wasn't an existing Eden somewhere in the world, but rather their intention to create such a paradise. In a world plagued by scarcity, all they needed to do was seize ample food and resources, transport them to a remote location, fortify it with defenses, and isolate themselves from the world outside. Those inside the walls would enjoy all the rare resources and food, shielded from the hardships faced by the rest of the world. For them, it would indeed be a dreamlike Eden. Hiroshi was startled by his own thoughts, but the more he pondered, the more plausible it seemed. Why else would they transport the seized grain from South City to H City and ship it overseas? It must be destined for foreign lands, perhaps even preparing for conflict with the European Union, currently at odds with the Federation. "Who is your superior?" Hiroshi asked in a low voice. "He is called David Noel, but I can't contact him directly. All our communications have been initiated by him." Wells took a deep breath and continued slowly, "You won't find him. Although he has been remotely controlling my work, I suspect he's not even in the Federation. He's likely in the European Union. These Federation people I hired temporarily. If I'm at the bottom of the group, then they're nothing more than cannon fodder." Haha. Exactly. They were transporting the grain to the European Union, and the headquarters of this criminal gang was likely somewhere in the EU, making it an international criminal organization. Besides seizing grain, they might be after other crucial resources too. Hiroshi gritted his teeth. Though there was currently no major food shortage within the Federation, tensions were escalating with the European Union. It wouldn't be long before various confrontations erupted. As the ancient saying goes, feed the horses before moving the troops, emphasizing the indispensable nature of food in conflicts between nations. And now these criminals, instead of benefiting their own people within the Federation, were planning to transport the seized grain to the EU. Unacceptable. "Do you know that the Federation is about to go to war with the European Union?" Hiroshi looked expressionlessly at the few thugs kneeling beside him, their dark hair and brown skin unmistakably of Federation origin. "You carry the blood of the Federation in your veins. Yet you're helping these Europeans rob our people's food. Are you still worthy to call yourselves human?" The Federation thugs looked extremely ashamed at his words, bowing their heads in silence. The Federation has been working tirelessly to stabilize the situation, distributing relief supplies to prevent anyone from starving to death. Maybe you and your families have also received those rations, but unfortunately, the country's relief efforts have been feeding a bunch of wolf cubs like you. Hiroshi berated mercilessly, his voice cutting like a knife. "You all deserve to die." The Federation thugs were panic-stricken at his words, with two of them even breaking down in tears. "I lost my mind. Please give me a chance. I'll never be a lackey for foreigners again." Hiroshi took a deep breath. He wanted to say more, but intense footsteps and panting suddenly echoed behind him. The militia members had arrived. Their fate. Hiroshi stood up, addressing the militia members who had arrived. It's up to you. The militia members, with their bloodshot eyes filled with hatred, stared intensely at the kneeling criminals, their breathing becoming heavier. We're all Federation people. Can you spare us just this once? I'll kowtow to you. Whatever you want, we'll give it to you if we have it. Please. The criminals pleaded desperately, looking at the militia members who seemed ready to tear them apart, shivering uncontrollably. They had never seen such eyes filled with such intense hatred, as though they wanted to skin them alive. Now you beg for mercy? At that moment, Simon, with astonishing accuracy, rushed up to a criminal with a dark complexion and an afro hairstyle. He grabbed his hair, thrusting the gun into his mouth, his forehead veins bulging as he roared almost hoarsely. When you killed my father, he was also kneeling like this, begging for mercy. Did you spare him? Huh. He was already 70 years old. What threat did he pose to you? Why did you have to kill him? Do you know what it felt like for me when I watched the surveillance footage? The criminal's pupils contracted to their limits. He remembered. 3 days ago, when they looted a flour factory, he saw an old man whose face didn't sit well with him. Without a second thought, he shot the old man in the thigh, blood spurting everywhere. The old man knelt down, begging for mercy, but he was excited at that moment, relishing the feeling of controlling life and death. He threw a bunch of keys at him and made the old man crawl like a dog to retrieve them. The old man dragged his injured leg, struggling to pick up the keys, hope gleaming in his eyes. But the next moment, he still shot him. He never intended to spare him. Making the old man pick up the keys was merely a game of cat and mouse, a pleasure in giving hope and then destroying it with his own hands. I was just worried that you'd die in our first round of attacks. Simon's face was streaked with tears, contorted in anger as he pressed his face close to the criminal's ear. But the heavens have eyes, letting you live, giving me the chance to avenge him with my own hands. You fell into my hands, and I'll make you experience 100 times the horror of death.